Hey, you lot, back for another news I see, and of course that is Swen backwards. On today's show we've got, we can't have modern computer problems if we don't have modern computers. Well, I do like it on a Sunday dinner. And will I still get delivery pay? But first, hang on love, this animal's got a weight limit. According to Yahoo News and Grimsby Live, Yahoo! Seaside donkey ride operator John Nuttall has sparked a debate by introducing a weight test for children wanting to ride his donkeys in Cleethorpes. The 61-year-old, who has faced accusations of fat-shaming youngsters, insists the measure is in place to safeguard the welfare of his animals. And with over 4 decades of experience in the donkey ride business at Skegness and Cleethorpes, Nuttall has now set a weight restriction, complete with scales and signage at his mobile paddock. The criteria stipulates that riders must be under 10, shorter than 4 foot 6 inches, and weigh less than 6 stone, 38 kilograms for you Europeans. And according to NHS guidelines, a 9-year-old child who stands 4 foot 5 inches and weighs 6 stone will be considered overweight. John explained, "We introduced the scales because we noticed that the kids were getting larger, if you like. Everything is at the entrance of the pen, the height, the signage, the scales, and you can actually see parents checking their own kids. But if the odd 1 or 2 come through, we do just say, 'Can we check you please?' And if they're too heavy, they're too heavy, and that's it. The donkeys are better for it, and they're not going to knacker them out. I've just done it to protect my animals, and I'm sorry if I've upset anyone, but that's the rules. I wouldn't let a midget ride my dog, so not letting proper tubbers on his donkey is quite right. This is entirely the parent's fault. Plus anyway, if the fat kid gets disappointed and sad, you can just distract it with a chocolate bar. It's obviously worked before." We can't have modern computer problems if we don't have modern computers. According to Tom'sHardware.com, Southwest Airlines, the 4th largest airline in the US, was seemingly unaffected by the CrowdStrike update that caused millions of computers to blue screen of death. This is because it used Windows 3.1. The CrowdStrike issue disrupted operations globally after a faulty update caused newer computers to freeze and stop working, with many prominent institutions, including airports and almost all US airlines, needing to stop flights. But since Windows 3.1, which was launched in 1992, hasn't had any updates for time, when CrowdStrike pushed the faulty update, Southwest wasn't affected. The airlines that were affected by the CrowdStrike update had to ground their fleets, because many of their background systems refused to operate. These systems could include pilot and fleet scheduling, maintenance records, and ticketing. Thankfully though, the update did not affect aircraft systems, ensuring that everything airborne remained safe and were always in the control of their pilots. Hey, if it works for Southwest, perhaps it'll work for you. Reject modernity. Get out that old mechanical typewriter and type an epic novel where man fights machine in a time travel sci-fi action movie. Perhaps of a character played by a man with a German accent. Just like that film, Die Hard. Perhaps he's looking for the bare necessities? According to The Guardian, police in Florida are urging people to stop taking selfies with a depressed black bear spotted loitering morosely on a roadside. The unhappy animal took up residence on the north side of Highway 98 in Santa Rosa Beach earlier this week, and according to a Facebook post by the Walton County Sheriff's Office, quickly attracted unwanted attention from passing motorists. The post said onlookers were trying to take selfies with the bear and is clearly not in the mood for pictures. The bear has shown signs of severe stress. The post described the large male bear as stressed, depressed, lemon zest, and urged the public not to approach a black bear at any time, especially those that are showing aggression like this big fella. Rangers from the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission were then dispatched to investigate after a call from the sheriff's office reported crowds of onlookers stopping to take photos of the bear, which was sitting beside a telegraph pole. But by the time that its officers and biologists arrived, the bear had dispersed and walked off into the adjacent woods. But it also said that based on images shared with staff, the bear did not appear to be injured. He might just have been overheated and was resting before moving on. So he might just have been a bear with a touch of heat stroke rather than one that's looking at cliff edges a bit too long. Good news? But what about if he's just lulling tourists into a false sense of security looking for a snack? He might just be smarter than the average bear. Yeah, sorry about that, mate. They went to an alternate dimension. According to the BBC, a World War II veteran has finally received his medals nearly 80 years too late. Now 98 and living in Watchet, Somerset, George Lewis served with the Royal Tank Regiment from 1944 to 1947. but he never received his medals, with Mr. Lewis suggesting they may have been lost in the post. He was presented with the medals on Sunday afternoon, and he said, after all this time to get those 2 medals, that was wonderful. Aww. The journey towards Saturday's ceremony began when neighbour Valerie Norman contacted her brother, who served in the same regiment as Mr. Lewis. Her brother passed on the story to the Regimental Association, which then provided the medals. He was finally presented with the War Medal 1939-45 and the France and Germany Star at an event at the Royal British Legion Club in Watchet by the Deputy Lieutenant of Somerset, Brigadier Richard Toomey. Mr. Lewis said, "It was a shock as much as anything. You can imagine after all this time that they wouldn't be able to find anything about you. But they had a complete record. It seems like an awful lot of fuss to go to, when what I did doesn't seem like much. But it's nice to know they respect what we did for people." Mr. Lewis was signed up to serve in February 1944, 1 month after his 18th birthday, and was commander of a tank, seeing action in Belgium, Holland and Germany. And his daughter, Liz Lewis, who lives with her father, said, "It means a lot to us because we've talked about it before, that he hasn't got any medals. We could never understand why he didn't have any medals. But we didn't do anything because he didn't know the answer himself. I'm very pleased that he's getting this recognition. He is really very honoured by all of this. Good lad. It's nice to see someone getting recognition for putting his life on the line." Wait, am I being nice? Am I broken? I feel fate. Get me the smelling salt stat. You'll have neigh problems if you follow the rules. According to the Express, a tourist bitten by one of the King's Guard horses then fainted on the street, and people were all left saying the same thing. In the clip by YouTuber Busker in the Park, the woman was bitten on the arm by the animal after she tried to get a photo with it. But some Twitter and X users have said that she ignored some obvious warning signs, which, had she noticed, could have led to her avoiding that nasty wound. One tourist managed to get a photo with the creature, posing with their thumb up whilst they stood next to the horse, which had attempted to graze that person's arm before they backed away. But the second tourist did not heed that animal's warning. Jump, 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 you're jumping, jump in her arm. Instead, the creature rotated their head and took a bite, leaving them screaming in pain. They then managed to break free and rush back to the gathered crowds, where another person inspected their wound, and moments later they could be seen crouching on the floor, having apparently fainted. But people weren't sympathetic. One user on Twitter wrote, "It gave 2 warnings and didn't give you a thumbs up back to continue, yet you did." And another screenshotted the post and said the beware sign should have been a dead giveaway. The sign read, "Beware, horses may kick or bite. Don't touch their reins. Thank you." And whilst the woman did not touch the reins, the horse did touch her and left her collapsed on the floor, tending to her wound. Yeah, that's what'll happen. These horses are literally there to guard the king. Sure, they look all cute and, horsey, but messing with a king's horse is like trying to stroke your local drug dealer. Nah, we're not bothered what it's for. You knock yourself out, mate. According to the BBC, Bristol City Council lost track of £1.8 million in petty cash transactions by staff last year. Investigators concluded that social workers issued payments of up to £500 without anyone checking what they were for. An internal audit unearthed a number of key weaknesses, including lack of a central record and no follow-up checks on emergency payments. A council spokesperson said, "We are now taking immediate action by reviewing all petty cash sources, with a view to significantly reduce the number of non-essential accounts." The authority held a number of cash accounts for various purposes, including as part of statutory and emergency payments for those in need. But an internal audit unearthed a lack of control or awareness by bosses and employees, bypassing council systems. Individual social workers also requested, authorised and issued cash payments of up to £500 without oversight. But while the internal auditors did not find evidence of fraudulent payments, the team concluded the risk of fraud and error remained high. So that local smack rat just needed a complicit worker and they could have access to all the £499 pairs of socks they wanted. Why didn't I think of that? I could have transcended my own reality by now. Well, I do like it on a Sunday dinner. According to the BBC, organisers of the World Gravy Wrestling Championships has said they need more people to take part in this year's event. The event at the Rose and Bowl pub in Rossendale, Lancashire, which is being held on the 26th of August, raises money for the East Lancashire Hospice. Participants wrestle wearing fancy dress in a pool full of gravy in 2-minute bouts in front of hundreds of spectators. One of the organisers, Andy Holt, said judges award points for entertainment value, adding, "It's not about serious wrestling, it's just about having fun." But he told BBC Radio Lancashire, "We're struggling a bit for competitors this year for some strange reason," adding, "You do not need wrestling experience to take part." The judges are marking on entertainment value more than anything. It's a great community day. It's not quite as erotic as baby oil wrestling, but at least it has an English flavour. That flavour being beef oxo. I bet it smelled like an explosion at an abattoir for weeks after. Excuse me, sir. Is this part of your anatomy? According to My Northwest, the case of a mysterious human finger found in a Tacoma driveway earlier this month has been solved, and the digit has been returned to its rightful owner. During the afternoon of the 5th of July, Tacoma Police Department officers responded to a report of a finger found in a driveway in the 800 block of South Pine Street. And according to a statement by Public Information Officer Detective William Muse, a person saw the story and called the Pierce County Medical Examiner's Office, which had taken custody of the digit, to claim the finger. The man identified himself by his surname and admitted to losing multiple digits messing around with some fireworks. Muse didn't provide the identity of the man, but he did explain that the prints on the recorded finger correspond with information about the person available on the FBI database. Muse concluded his statement by saying the case hasn't been assigned to an investigator and that no criminal charges will be pursued. In a previous update, Muse added, calls were made to local hospitals, but they didn't report anyone being treated over the 4th of July holiday for any sort of dismembering injury. So it seems like the owner of the finger just blew his hand to bits and didn't bother going to the hospital. I know medical fees in America have been criminal for some time, but surely you get it checked out. What if someone fingers a crime scene with your amputated digit, eh? Fingers. So wait, I'm not in a post-apocalyptic survival situation? According to the BBC, a contestant on a US survival reality show killed and ate a protected bird in New Zealand whilst filming the series. The show, called Race to Survive, sees contestants largely having to hunt their own food. The bird, a weka, has become extinct over large parts of New Zealand and is a fully protected species. The contestant and his teammate were both disqualified from the race as a result. Contestant Spencer Corey Jones was aware he was breaking the rule when he killed and ate the bird. This was according to news site Radio New Zealand, citing a clip from the show. In the clip, he was seen to have apologised, saying he made a foolish mistake and they didn't prepare for the hunger. He further said, "What I did disrespected New Zealand, and I'm sorry." New Zealand's Department of Conservation said they were alerted by a representative of the production company, US-based Original Productions, shortly after the incident occurred. Officials conducted an investigation and issued the company and the participant with written warnings, citing unusual group dynamic situation, such as fatigue and significant hunger of the cast members. But Dylan Swain, team lead of investigations for the department, said, "Nonetheless, killing and eating a native protected species in this matter is unacceptable, and the company is on notice about the need for its programme participants to adhere to conservation legislation." Big lapse by the production company, and someone needs a severe arse kicking. I heard from a mate of mine that when seagulls are breeding, they're protected too. Doesn't protect me from their amorous advances on my seaside hot dog though, does it? Hehe Weiners. According to AP News, an Oscar Mayer Wienermobile got into a pickle on a Chicago highway. The hot dog-shaped vehicle hit a car Monday morning along Interstate 294, and its driver lost control and overcorrected, causing it to roll onto its side near the Chicago suburb of Oak Brook. No injuries were reported after the crash, which prompted the closure of the right lane of northbound I-294 for more than an hour. And a spokesperson for the Oscar Mayer brand, which has several Wienermobiles, told the Chicago Sun-Times it's grateful that everybody involved is safe and there were no injuries. And a video from the crash scene shows that the yellow and orange Wienermobile was later hauled away on a flatbed truck, with apparent damage visible on part of the vehicle. My wiener is broken, huh? We don't really have food-themed vehicles in the UK, and I feel it's something we're missing out on. I'd love to see a Greg's Sausage Roll vehicle, or even a Frey Bentos Pie-themed vehicle. The latter would be mint if you had to tin open the top with the force of 1,000 suns just to get into it. Will I still get delay repay? According to The Independent, an escaped tortoise caused disruption for train services as it launched a low-speed escape attempt after trespassing on the railway. The runaway reptile, named Solomon, was caught on the tracks near Ascot in Berkshire as they crawled along the rail towards Bagshot. It led to disruption of 4 services on Friday evening. That is a naughty tortoise. Engineers picked the tortoise up and put it on the next passing train, with arrangements to drop it off at a vet in Staines. And a Network Rail spokesperson said, on Friday, there was a trespasser of an unusual nature on the tracks at Ascot, as an escaped tortoise called Solomon was moving at pace toward Bagshot. We're sorry to any passengers who were disrupted during this incident. While we are delighted that this story has a happy ending and can reassure passengers that our everyone home safe, everyday ambitions extend to pets. Network Rail suggests that the owner's home is next to the rail track and that the tortoise may have gotten through a gap in their fence. How can you lose one of the slowest pets there are? I could outpace one with a jaunty stride, never mind running. Maybe the owner should make the fence out of a material that isn't lettuce leaves. This might be the next Deliveroo. According to ABC7.com, a couple in New Jersey had their Tesla damaged by a fish that apparently fell from the sky outside their home. The car was parked in their driveway in Atlantic Highlands on Sunday when the whole incident was caught on camera. At first, Cynthia and Jeff Levine said they didn't even know anything had happened. Cynthia said, the car started honking. It went crazy honking, which we'd never heard. I didn't know how to turn it off. I went out and he was in the yard somewhere. He heard the crash and everything, but ignored it. Then they saw the damage to the car. Cynthia said, we were like, holy crap, look at this. And I said to him, it looks like fish scales and blood on the windshield. Sweet name for an album. They already have an idea though, where it came from. Local residents have said it's pretty common to see birds flying around with fish in their mouth. And Cynthia further said, we also have an eagle's nest in our backyard. We think it was probably the eagle. Not exactly fish and chips, but it's not often you get a free meal that lands on your doorstep. Alright, it cost them a window, but don't look a gift horse in the mouth. I once got hit with a tin of beans on a night out, and let me tell you, the sweet, sweet feeling of cold beans on your lips when you're 20 fathoms deep in Guinness certainly takes away the concussion. Yeah, officer, he's about 1 foot tall, got a little patch of black on his wing, angry looking. According to the BBC, a shoplifting bird dubbed Steven Seagull has been banned from a convenience store for flying off with packets of crisps over a 6-year stealing spree. Staff at the Lindale Central store in White Regis, Dorset, have put up posters urging customers to close the door behind them in a bid to stop the cheeky Steven Seagull. The manager of the store, Stuart Harmer, said the crafty seagull had made off with about 30 packets of crisps in the past 2 months alone. He said, trying to explain to the powers that be that I've got stock loss because of a seagull. They think it's a joke. Mr. Harmer said, Stephen comes in the shop when the door's open, puts his head around the corner of the door, nicks a packet of crisps, and then flies off with it. And according to Mr. Harmer, Stephen is particularly fond of barbecue beef flavoured crisps. Then once he's outside the shop on Portland Road, he uses his beak to open the packet and then eats the crisps in the streets alongside his feathered friends. Loads of customers have seen him do it. He's not shy, and he's even admitted that Stephen was very daring and sometimes annoying, but conceded, what can you do? They'd even, in a desperate mood to try and stop the thief, put out a selection of spicy flavoured crisps instead. But Stephen ignored them and still managed to find his favourite flavour. I really would love to be mates with seagulls, but to be honest, they're gits. If it's not being crapped on or dive bombed because he had the audacity to be within 6 miles of their young ones, it's being mugged for your Greg's pasty. They're like the roadmen of the bird world. So describing a product means nothing now? According to AP News, consumers cannot expect boneless chicken wings to actually be free of bones. This was after a divided Ohio Supreme Court ruled on Thursday, rejecting claims by a restaurant patron who suffered serious medical complications from getting a bone stuck in his throat. Michael Barkheimer was dining with his wife and friends at a wing joint in Ohio and had ordered the usual boneless wings with Parmesan garlic sauce when he felt a bite-sized piece of meat go down the wrong way. 3 days later, feverish and unable to keep food down, Barkheimer went to the emergency room, where a doctor discovered a long, thin bone that had torn his esophagus and caused an infection. Barkheimer sued the restaurant, Wings on Brockwood, saying the restaurant failed to warn him that so-called boneless wings, which are, of course, nuggets of boneless, skinless breast meat, could contain bones. In a 4-3 ruling, the Supreme Court said that boneless wings refers to its cooking style. What? And that Barkheimer should have been on guard against bones, since it's common knowledge that chickens have bones. Justice Joseph T. Detters said for the majority, a diner reading boneless wings on a menu would no more believe that the restaurant was warranting the absence of bones in the items than believe that the items were made from chicken wings, just as a person eating chicken fingers would know that he had not been served fingers. But the dissenting judges called Detters' reasoning utter jabberwocky. Is that an insult? And said a jury should have been allowed to decide whether the restaurant was negligent in serving Barkheimer a piece of chicken that was advertised as boneless. One of the justices that disagreed wrote, the question must be asked, does anyone really believe that the parents in this country who feed their young children boneless wings, or chicken tenders, or chicken nuggets, or chicken fingers, expect bones to be in the chicken? Of course they don't. When people read the word boneless, they think that it means without bones, as all sensible people do. I think I found an American with sense. My first thought is, does that mean that nut-free stuff can have like one nut? Or fish-free soup can have just a little bit of shellfish? Like, you should have known that it couldn't possibly be without fish. It's your fault you're going into anaphylactic shock. I'm not sure the majority of justices thought this one through. Here are my honourable mentions. These are stories that just didn't quite make the cut. Snipping. A JetBlue passenger claims their cancer returned after they had a spat with a flight attendant over their emotional support bulldog. The gist is that JetBlue say they're now only carrying trained service dogs in the cabin, and that you can't just get away with saying your dog's an emotional support animal. Although JetBlue have said you can still take small dogs and cats, but they must fit in a small carrier. That's the important part. This big chubber, apparently way too big for that carrier, so that idea was out the window. This is a pretty absurd story, but these people have got cancer, and I'm just not okay with laughing at cancer, even if it is giving rich folk realness. Obviously though, if you do this sort of stuff and you've got the plague or super AIDS, 100% fair game. Not a bad little story in an entitled tosspot sort of way, but it's all still ongoing, so it's all allegedly. They allegedly may not have been a tosspot. Another story is a guy has been charged with throwing 11 e-scooters into a river in Idaho. The mugshot of him shows him in a Domino's pizza shirt, and I think that's quite interesting. Doesn't show motive in the article, just that when he was asked to stop for questioning, he sped off on his one-wheeled electric scooter. Can you be racist about the amount of wheels? Article says he's now in jail without specifying anything else. Your guess is as good as mine. Might be free and running for president. And my final story is scientists are urging Etsy sellers to stop selling dead bats. Apparently they're brightly coloured and used as an ornament by some sort of people, but they're a biosecurity risk. Pandemic. Apparently they're most popular in Tennessee for some reason. Any Tennesseans out there want to enlighten me? Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe if you do so fancy. Also, if you think there's any news that we might have missed, please get in contact via the email in the description. Please also check out our news sources down there in the description. Lots more information that I have just completely glossed over, didn't care one bit about. Check it out, you might find something interesting and then let me know so I don't have to do quite as much work. See you next time for another jam-packed news you might have missed. Stay gravy.